Hello and good night to the family, friends, guests, and members of the St. Charles Borromeo's Ministry of Consolation. A few weeks ago, Margaret Rose Ali asked me to write something on what it was like to be raised by a single father. I guess to share a little bit of my own life story. Now, you may know my dad, Carlos Charles, who happens to be a member of this ministry. And you will know he's awesome and he's a great guy. But yet still, it felt like a little bit of a Herculean task. Like, how do I talk about what it is like to be raised by a single father? I mean, because the truth of the matter is, as much as other people would tell a little bit of their own experiences, you talk to your friends, being raised by a single father is essentially all that I know. And so it's hard for me to compare it to something else. I guess it's a normal experience for me. But of course, I know that, it's not a common experience for most people. In fact, when you think of being raised by a single parent in general, you think about being raised by a single mother and not so much single fathers, even though there are probably more than a few out there. So I thought I really should do my best in trying to deliver something on this topic. I messaged my sisters. I have three who all live abroad. Adissa, Casey, and Karen. I'm the fourth, Rika. And we said, let's try to do something on the topic. Let's try to talk about what it was like to be raised by our dad. Now, the first thing, of course, I guess we could all agree on was that growing up, each of us probably experienced that one little niggling question. What if? What if our mom hadn't gotten ill and passed away when Adissa was 10, the twins, Casey and Karen, were 8, and I was 5? What if we had been raised by two parents? I think for many of us who don't come from the typical family, that what if question is always there. The next thing that the four of us could agree on was the what if didn't really matter. My dad was a great dad. He was somebody who understood himself in light of his vocation to fatherhood. We never had any doubt that, we would be okay, that things would work out. I think one of the first things I can probably say about being raised by a single father is that, especially one who takes his vocation very much to heart as my dad did, is that the first thing you always have is support. He always gave us support, emotional support, spiritual support, financial support. He was always there for us. It was one of those things that it's probably easy to take for granted. Thankfully, we never did. We've always appreciated it. We've always appreciated it, Daddy. But it was just so constant. And even in light of that whole sense of something being constant, my dad always gave us constant reminders to be better. Not that it was a criticism, but just in the sense that we could be better, we could do more, we should never give up. We should always have our faith, we should always have our education, we should always be ambitious, we should always be our best selves. Now, if you know my dad, you'd be like, what? Carlos said all those things, he doesn't really talk. Well, he didn't really talk. He said all those things with his actions, because he himself was always consistent. He always put his best foot forward at work, in his different ministries, in his groups, in whatever activities he was partaking in. He always was constant and consistent in faith, going to church regularly during the week and of course on weekends. He was always consistent in doing things for us that could only be, seen, I guess, as what they were. They were acts of love, always, making sure that we were okay, that things were all right with us. Maybe not with words, but with the, the look and the, you sure? Maybe a little two-word question, that reminded us that we had support. He was always there, always being his best self so that we could be our best selves, learning from example. The next thing about being raised by a single father, one such as my dad, was that we understood that family is everything. My dad had 4 daughters, but he also had 5 sisters and his own parents, his mom and his dad. And no matter what he was going through, if any one of us, daughters, siblings, parents, needed something, he was there. He was willing to be there to take us, to hospital, to church, to visit another family member, or go on a line. He was always there, to listen. He's very good at listening to, conversation. And I guess when you have so many women around you, conversation is inevitable. We're all very chatty. So he was always there to be a listening ear when any one of us needed it. Family came first. So we learned, my sisters and I, that we needed to be there for each other. We needed to be there for him. We needed to be there for our aunts, for our grandparents. Family is everything. And of course, all of that is always, rolled up in that love buffers all. Every problem probably has a solution. And this is not some sort of eternal optimism, but eternal realism. In the sense that if you look at everything with love, if you put your best foot forward, if you give everything to Christ, just as my dad did, there would be nothing that would be insurmountable. Every problem would have a solution. And I think that's what we learned as well, that no matter what we were going through, whatever we are going through, we will be okay if we take it to God in prayer, if we give each other our support, if we just put our best foot forward, we would be okay. And we learned this from our dad. And at the heart of all that love is always faith. And I've said it before, I've been mentioning taking things to prayer. My dad was so consistent in prayer. Praying all the time, encouraging us to pray every day. Going down in the car, we'd say our prayer before going to school. And now, if he drops me to work, when I'm going to work, we will say the daily readings, we'll discuss, we'll pray, we'll intercede. And intercession was always a big deal for him. Pray for those who may not in any moment be in a mental, emotional space to pray for themselves, And as such, we were always praying for each other. And even when we were happy and buoyant, we were praying for each other. Never neglect prayer. I think these are things that my dad taught all 4 of us. So we've all always been a praying family. And I think it's probably something he learned from his mom. And I want to thank him for always having his mom and his sisters so involved in our lives that we were always able to recognize family and never take anything for granted. And we would never become too insular, but always able to reach out, to be able to discuss with people. I don't know. I feel like being raised by a single father is probably not obviously the ideal, but I think any parent who does what they're called to do as a parent will always have children who understand who they are and are always striving to be their best self. So, in conclusion, I'd like to thank my dad for being such an awesome dad. I'd like to thank Margaret Rose Ali for asking me to do this, and I guess in me as the intermediary, asking my sisters to be involved in this. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Consolation for giving us this opportunity to share a little bit of our experience. I hope that you'll have a great evening. I hope that you'll continue to do what you'll do well, pray for others, give each other support, and give the parish support when they're going through different things that need consolation. Thank you. Have a great night. Have a blessed night. And I hope that every one of you is filled with the love of God, filled with the power of the Holy Spirit, and go forth and just be be your best selves. Have a blessed night.